Hi, Mom. It's Tim, and this is the slide presentation that I told you I was making for you. So I've got some maps of London and also of the areas we were in, just to kind of give you a general sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, and I can always make more detail for you later. But there's 137 photos to jump through, so I'm going to show you at least a selection of them, and this will probably end up being 45 minutes or more. So basically, we arrived at Heathrow. If you look at my cursor, Heathrow is right around there. And we jumped on the tube and we got into London. And in London, I'm just looking for that. So this was basically where we arrived. That's Earl's Court. That was our station, and that was the subway station. And then we walked over to that little green area. There is the garden in front of where we were, and what we were on was a place called the Garden View Hotel. And from our room, we could not actually see the garden, but that's physically where it was. What we spent the first couple of days on was the on-off bus, as you know, and we went through all of this area here. So here's Hyde Park up here. Here's Buckingham Palace. And remember, we saw a couple of views of those things, but we were mostly on and off the buses in all of this area. And then Westminster is down here, and the Eye and various other things. So that was all sort of down in this area here. So that's the general lay of the land. And let me now switch to photo. Actually, and then on day two, which was, so this was Monday Monday we arrived in the morning on the 16th of September. And then once we got to our hotel and got sorted out, we spent all of that day sort of from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon until about 8 on the bus, getting on and off and seeing various things, and I'll show you those pictures in a minute. And then the following day, we did the on-off bus again. So this is back where we are. This is a lower detail map, so you can see more of London. So we were right here. This is where our hotel is, and then we did sort of the bus rides all around this area here. So remember, we saw things like Marble Arch and Hyde Park and Buckingham Palace. And then at one point we got on the DLR, which is the Docklands Light Railway, and we took the light railway system all the way out here to the Royal Conservatory at Greenwich, and I've got some photos of that. And then when we came back, we spent about an hour or two out there in Greenwich, and then when we came back from there, we got on the boat, and we took the boat back down the River Thames to the Westminster area, which is right around here. Okay, so that was basically our day two. That was the Tuesday. And then on Wednesday morning around noon, we left London and we went back to Heathrow. We picked up a car and we drove up to Crick. And I'll show you some maps of that later on. So that's generally where we were in the maps. So let me now jump over to our photos. I'm going to stop that share, and then I'm going to share some photos, and we'll get into the photo part. So there is the on-off bus. So this is Monday in London, and there's Dave and you on the bus. And as you can see, it's a bit of a gloomy day, but the rain held off for most of the day, and it only started raining on us sort of quite a bit toward the end, like around sort of 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the 6 o'clock in the evening, and then by about 7 or 7:30, we were trying to get back to our hotel. So this is us just zipping around sort of the various streets in London. Now we're on the Thames. This is the Thames here, and you and Dave are walking where you're on the south side of the Thames, and we're walking across the Thames. And over here, where I'm circling my cursor, that's kind of where Westminster is. So just to kind of show you on where we actually are. And we are walking up here to go to a pub, and that's when we ended up going into that little, originally that little bar, the wine bar that Dave knew of, that smelled a lot like cheese, and we didn't like it there, so we ended up leaving. So we're still out on the Monday. This is the Monday late afternoon, and we're walking around, and this is the London Eye. And Westminster, there you can see Big Ben behind the scaffolding, and this is kind of all the Westminster area, what's called the Westminster area. And I'll flip through these fairly quickly. This is the following day, so we're now on day 2. This is Tuesday the 17th. We've got back on the on-off bus, and the way I know it's Tuesday is because it's nice and sunny, and for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we had wall-to-wall sunshine every single day. And where we are now, we've just gotten off of the subway that we took from Earl's Court, where we were near our hotel, and this is kind of close to the Shard, and this is where we picked up the on-off bus again, and then we drove around for another couple of hours on the on-off bus. And right now, this is you and Dave in front of the monument. This is the monument to the London Fire, the Great Fire of 1671. Is that right? The fire was 1666, and 13,200 homes got wiped out, along with 87 churches and 52 livery company halls. So it was a massive fire, and this monument was actually designed in consultation with Sir Christopher Wren, who's a very famous English architect. So anyway, this is the monument there. I think we have a picture of it. Oh no, we don't. Okay. Now we're on the on-off bus again, and this is the London Bridge, and we're just crossing the Thames again on the London Bridge, and over here is where the Tower of London is. This is us listening to the announcer. There's Dave, you can see, and there's you with your nose in your phone. And there's Big Ben, and as you can see, again, a beautiful, bright, sunny day. So this is Tuesday, sort of midday, and we've been spending a couple of hours driving the bus, just kind of getting the lay of the land. And we're listening to pretty funny stories that this guy is busy telling us. And there's another picture of Big Ben under scaffold. There's Westminster. So this is the Parliament buildings for the UK. And again, we're on the on-off bus taking these photos. That's just kind of a cool looking bar that I saw. This is an active bar down here, and this is called the Albert building. This is where you and I had lunch, Dave. We had lunch together. We went into a Sainsbury's, and we bought some soups and sandwiches. And we sat around outside and we ate them, and then Dave needed to go and lie down to give his back a bit of a rest. And so you and I had a coffee and sat around and chatted for a bit in the beautiful sunshine. And there you can see the London Eye right behind us. And Dave is just down in that park, and we went and fetched him a few minutes later. This is now the Tuesday we've gotten off the on-off bus, and we've taken the Docklands Railway out to Greenwich Conservatory, and this is the Cutty Sark, and this is a museum. This is being redone, renovated, and it's sort of, there's a museum, and you can go up on the boat. We didn't do that. We had gotten to Greenwich fairly late in the afternoon, and so there's only a little bit of time, so we hot-footed it to the museum. Now, while you and Dave were sitting in the museum, I decided to walk up the hill to the actual observatory, and it was about a 15-20 minute walk up a fairly big hill, actually. And I got some photos from there. I didn't get a chance to go in because it was closing in just a few minutes, but I did manage to just kind of, quickly look around, and some beautiful views. What you can see right here is that's actually the time zone line. So remember, Greenwich is important because it's when they invented the concept of the different time zones, and Greenwich straddles, or is the start of Greenwich Mean Time. And so this is the actual line right there on one side of the line. It's 1 hour later than on the other side of the line. Another picture of the conservatory. And this is the view looking out from the conservatory. And this is all of the Docklands area. So this is all being built up in about the last 25 years or so. When I first went to the UK, to London on my own in 1984, so that's about 25 years ago. Is that right? 35 years ago? Might be 35 years ago. 19 and 16 is 35, yes. There was only one building, one lone building. None of this stuff had been built out, and the whole place was pretty much an industrial zone. And the Docklands Railway ended back here at this building with a slanted top. That's Canary Wharf, and that was the end of the railway. And the railway now comes all the way back here and brings you to Greenwich, which is what we did. But none of that existed at the time. And in fact, none of these buildings, except for the one lone Canary Wharf building, existed. This whole place was kind of a wasteland at the time. This is the actual museum, and you and Dave are sitting down there having a bit of a rest while I hot-footed it up this hill. And it doesn't look like a very big hill, but it was a bit of a hike to get up here. And then, of course, you get these lovely views of the city. So again, this is where you guys are, and beautiful big park there. You guys are sitting somewhere in there, while I'm up at the conservatory. This is just a little thing that I saw on the way back to the museum. I'm just coming up to pick you guys up. There you guys are, inside the Greenwich Museum, and we're just about to get kicked out. The museum is closing in the next 5 or 10 minutes. What's interesting about this, and this looked like a really cool museum. I wish I'd had more time to spend around it. This is the back end of a boat. This is actually a building within a building. So even though that's the outside wall of the building, this whole building here is covered over. Let's see if you can actually see it in the picture of the museum. We're in this building. Actually, I think we might be over here in this building. So it was a very cool building. Anyway, now what we've done is we've walked back, and we went for a little bit of a sit in a pub for a drink while we were kind of resting our feet from Greenwich. And then we came over here, and at 6 o'clock, we were on the 6 o'clock ferry, the boat ferry back to London proper. And so the boat is going down the Thames, and it's making 6 or 7 stops. It's sort of like a bus almost, and it makes 6 or 7 stops along the way. And this is us in the boat. And it was a fairly fast boat, but as I say, it's going back and forth across the rivers at all these different stops. And here we've just passed the London Bridge, and we're on the way to Westminster, which is when we get off. And so then we got off, and this is us back at the Westminster stop. We've just gotten off this boat and just moving our way off the wharf up to the street level. And that's the 3 of us together. And you and Dave down. So this is where we would have picked up the boat. And then we've kind of come back here, Westminster Pier, and now we're walking back up to the road proper. We then would, from Westminster, we got onto the subway, and we came to our stop, which is Earl's Court. So this is Earl's Court Station, and I took a picture of this just simply because it was kind of a cool thing. And you might recall we got off of this train, and then we climbed up here, and then we had to go all the way around here, and then we're walking down this all the way here, and then we get out back there, and from there we're a couple of minutes to our hotel. Now, so this is now Wednesday morning on the 18th. What we're doing is we're making our way back to Heathrow because we're picking up our car at noon at the Heathrow parking. That's where I rented the car. And so we have to get back on the subway to go from Earl's Court, which is our subway stop that's right close to our hotel, back to Heathrow. And that was about a 15-20 minute subway. So very, very convenient. And lots of travelers do it. And in fact, there's a lot of hotels in this general area because we're obviously not the only people doing this. This hotel, this was where the 3 of us stayed together in the one room. It was basic, it was clean, the water was hot, but it was, we could have certainly gone up a notch or 2 in terms of overall quality. Although the breakfast was surprisingly good. We had hard-boiled eggs and toast, and cheese and really quite good coffee. So and this was a smoking price too. So for staying in a convenient place in London, it was a great price. But we certainly could have notched it up a couple of levels in terms of basic quality. Anyway, it was only for a couple of nights. And there's the bigger version of it. Now this, we've now driven to, so let me go back to the map. I'm going to show you the map. And we're going to, we're going to go to a, hang on, I've now managed to, here we go. I want to share the maps. So now what we've done is we've left London. Okay, so remember we came in from Heathrow and then back to Heathrow. Now we're at Heathrow and we jump in the car, our rental car, we get onto the M4 to go to the M25. And you were asking about the M25 when we were driving it. See, the M25 goes all the way around London. So it's the ring road around London, or what they call there the orbital. Okay, so what we did is we drove on the M4. And by the way, if you go down the M4 this way and you drive for about an hour and a half, you get to Chepstow, where Colleen and I and the kids lived. But what we did is we got out from Heathrow, we got onto the M4, onto the M25, then we drove up here to the M1, and then we took the M1 all the way up north to where we're going, and I'll show you another picture of that. And our total drive time up north was about 3 hours, I would say, and then we took a break along the way. We stopped at a motorway, and just to kind of get a coffee and use the bathrooms and stuff. So the whole drive was about 3 hours. We left at noon. By the time we actually got going, it was probably 1 o'clock. So 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday the 18th, we ended up trying to find our way into our place. And what that was is, so we got up here. We got off here, and then we drove around and we got to basically to the Matlock area. So Matlock, the town that was quite close by was Matlock, Bath, and we went to there a fair bit. So we got off the motorway somewhere around here. Actually, I think it might have been Ripley, and we sort of made our way through some roads and ended up in here. And Crick is right in here, right somewhere in that little area right there. I thought I had there we are. So we got off here, and Crick was right around Ripley. Crick is kind of up in this area here, or it might be over on this side here. But we're basically, this is kind of where we were, this is where we were living in our place in Crick. And so Crick is this place here. This is you and Dave in the garden on Wednesday morning. Sorry, on Thursday morning, because on Wednesday, and Wednesday night when we got to Crick, once we got settled in and everything, we thought, okay, we'll go out for a pub dinner. And we walked up to the pub and we found out that Wednesday night was the night when they don't have any cooking, but they do takeout. And so they can order in from various other takeouts. So then we walked up the street to the pizza place, and they were serving, but they only were serving for seated, like they had a seating at 6 and a seating at 8, and we were there at 7, and they had no reservations left for 8. And so we discovered that we couldn't really eat in the town, and I didn't want to get back in the car because we'd just driven, for half of the day. And so we ended up going to the corner grocery store, which was 1 minute away from our house, our cabin, or our cottage, I guess. And we grabbed some frozen pizzas and some snacks and stuff, and we ate in our cottage. And that turned out to be what we did for at least 2 or 3 nights of the 7 nights that we were staying there. So this is the next morning now, Thursday morning. We've had a good lie-in. We've kind of recovered from London, and we're getting ready to kind of explore the local area. And as you can see, it's another gorgeous sunny day. And we had it was sunny. Monday was overcast, and it rained a little bit when we were in London. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday were all sunny, just almost no clouds in the sky, just end to end sunshine, quite amazing. So this is you in the garden, and this is our morning, having morning coffee in Crick. And there's another garden picture, very beautiful garden, and you can see this is just the side of our cottage there. And in fact, if I go back here, you can see, you can't quite see it, but this is the cottage there. There is another picture of the cottage in a couple of minutes. So on the Thursday, we are now trying to explore the local area, and the first place that we end up at is the Crick Tramway Village, and we went and we looked around a little bit, but we didn't go in. And basically, it was a big assembly of a whole bunch of different trams from historic periods. You know, they had a tram from Glasgow 1925 and a tram from London in 1915 and all that kind of jazz. We decided not to go into it because we didn't want to sort of spend the day, so then we just zipped around the local area, and we stumbled across this place, which is the regimental monument to the wounded and dead from the Nottingham area that they lost in the wars. And so this is you and Dave, and we've just arrived, and we're just going to walk up to this monument, which is this. And we're, in a few minutes, we're now going to walk in there and walk all the way up to the top. And it was, when we got to the top, it was absolutely beautiful. And that's one of the pictures from it. This is an old, we weren't sure what that was, but that kind of looks like an amphitheater, and it looks like an old Roman ruin or something. But of course, you know, everything's full of these kinds of things in the UK. So this is you and Dave. We're now at the top of the tower, and you can see just how phenomenal the view is. Just a really, really impressive view. And it's we stayed up there for, you know, about 10 minutes, just kind of soaking it all in. And you can see in all directions. And as you can see, there's not a cloud in the sky. It's absolutely amazing. And on the way down, we took a group photo. And this is at the bottom, so you can see those stairs. Whoops. How did I do that? You can see those stairs that go all around there. And so that was quite a little hike up there. Not the last one we ended up doing. So this is what it's called, the Regimental War Memorial, and this is just a little note that tells you all about it. And this is a picture of you just looking out in the, you know, this was the landscape. We're just coming out of the tower, and we're just looking around, and it's just gorgeous rolling hills everywhere you look. Now, then we got back in the car, and we went to Cranford, and specifically because we wanted to go on a narrow boat. And it turned out all the narrow boats were not operating for the next several days because they were all being maintained. And there weren't any, this was Thursday, and there weren't going to be any narrow boats until Saturday. And we talked about it, but we decided not to bother to make a reservation because we didn't know what we were going to be doing. But you and I went for, I think Dave was deciding to have a nap in the car, and you and I just went for a little hike for a few minutes just along the canal. And that's where we are right now. Then we got back in the car, and what you might remember is across from the canal, and at the canal place we stopped and we had lunch, and then right across the canal there was the mill. There was an old mill, and we went in, and it had been turned into, you know, there was a used bookstore and antique store and stuff, and it was kind of a little you know, trendy shopping place. So we spent a few minutes there, and then we got back in the car and we drove up into the Peak District. And the Peak District, as you will recall, let me go back to our maps. The Peak District is this green area here, which is all of National Park. And so remember, we're living down here, and so we were driving. Let me see if I can get this right here. We were driving on the A6, I think, into here, and we didn't go quite as far as Buxton, but we sort of drove through here, and somewhere in this district, see at Peak District National Park, and somewhere in this area, we came across the picture that I was just showing you. And so the picture is you and Dave in this Miller's Dale, and this is on the Monsal Trail, so look that up. Basically what this is this is an old abandoned rail line, and you can see the picture there. You can see the picture. This was once the largest station in the Midland Line. The Midland Line ran into Manchester. Manchester is very important in the 1800s because it was one of the main industrial factory sites in the UK. And so the Midland Line fed Manchester, fed in coal and supplies into their factories, and then obviously the goods came out of there. And so now since then these lines have been ripped up. But you and I, Dave decided to finish his book and to have a bit of a rest. And as you'll recall, Dave was kind of nursing his shoulder from his dislocated shoulder. So you and I then went along this Monsail Trail. We went probably for about 20 minutes or so, 20 minutes back and then 20 minutes, well, actually probably about 15 minutes each way. And we came across these really cool lime burning things. So there's a story here that you can read about burning lime, and it just sounds like a very unpleasant thing. But they were very, very cool, and that's what one of them looks like. And so you and I walked past those, and we understood a little bit about the whole thing about kilning lime, and then we came across a tunnel. So the path that you're on here is now a paved, an asphalt path, but that's where the old train tracks were, and that would have been a train. That's a train tunnel that would eventually, if you walk down that path all the way, you would end up in Manchester, and we're probably about 40 or 50 miles from Manchester right now. And what you might remember is that as we walked up this path to the tunnel, it got markedly colder. The temperature dropped probably about 10 degrees from a very pleasant day into, like, pretty chilly, just simply because there's such, this tunnel, and it wasn't that there was a lot of wind coming through it, but the tunnel was perceptibly, noticeably cooler than the outside air. And you noticed that as you walked out of the sunshine and you started walking and you got toward the tunnel. And that's about as far as we got in the tunnel. I got a picture, and then we went out and we went back to retrieve Dave. And this is just on our way back. And as you can see, this is where the old train tracks would have been right there, and that's the side of the train, embankment. And we're probably just from here about 3 minutes. If we walk down that path there, you're only about 2 or 3 minutes from where Dave is waiting for us. Now, this is the next morning. So now we're talking about Friday morning. We got back to our place on the Thursday night. From the Peak District Drive that we just went through, and now this is sunrise in Crick. So this is our cottage right here. There's the front door that we kept going in and out. And remember these gates that we had to close? We put the car behind it, and then we got out and closed and opened them every day. So I came out here just to grab a picture of the sunrise. So this is the sunrise, and it's the start of another beautiful sunny day. So this is now Friday morning in Crick. What we decided to do is we decided to go into Matlock Bath, and we had come through Matlock Bath the day earlier on the way back from the Peak District. And as we started to find our way around and realize where we were, one of the things that Dave noticed was that there was a hotel that was a spa. And so we went in, and we found out that they had, on the way into town, we stopped in the hotel just to inquire about whether the public could use the spa and what they had. And they had a hot bath and things like that. And Dave thought it'd be a really good idea for him to soak for a couple of hours. And so we took this picture in the garden, and he's made a reservation for the afternoon to go and use it for a couple of hours. And in the meantime, the three of us are on our way up to the Heights of Abraham. So this is where we took the cable car and the gondola, and there's pictures of the cable car and stuff. And we go up to the top of this embankment, big cliff. And then up there's a mine that we went through, and a few other things. So we spent a fair bit of time up at the Heights of Abraham, and it's very interesting, and it was a really wonderful day. So this is now, we're in the gondolas, we're in the cable cars on the way up to the Heights of Abraham, and this is looking down at the Matlock Bath, the little town of Matlock Bath. And there's two towns. There's Matlock Bath, which is this cute little town right along the road and the river, and then there's Matlock proper, or just Matlock, and it's a much bigger town sort of slash city, and we'll see some pictures of it later on. So this is you and Dave as we're just coming up in the gondola, and you can see sort of the picturesque views behind us, and there's some more people on the way down, or lack of people on the way down. And then as we get up there, there's these metal cows. So I just kind of took a picture of them. I thought they were kind of cute. And then you and I wandered around. We had decided that we wanted to go into the mine tour. And so we're just actually kind of getting the lay of the land, and we just walked around and just thought I'd take a nice little picture. And this is the caves that we end up now going into, the Masson Cavern. And this was about a 30-minute guided tour where they told us all about, sort of the mining of the day and what was happening. It was very, very cool. Little bit chilly, but quite good. And you, I think you enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed it. This is us in the actual mine itself. What you can see here, this is actually some information about who owns this particular mine, who gets to mine it, and who is working the mine. And so this kind of dates back to the 1800s when they were when you would actually lay claim to these different mines. And the guy walked us through exactly what that meant, but I can't quite remember that. This is us just coming out of the mines, and we're just kind of hitting the sunshine. It's been awfully dark down there, and we're just hitting the sunshine, and you're about to be confronted with this beautiful view of Matlock. So we walked out of the mine, and literally within about 20 feet of the mine exit, you're now standing on the top of the Heights of Abraham, and you're looking out at Matlock. And so that's kind of the town of Matlock, or it's really more like a small city. And I thought this was interesting as I was intrigued on how they got the name for the Heights of Abraham. And what's interesting is it's actually named after the Plains of Abraham. And it's very unusual to find anything in the UK that's named after something from Canada. That's not really the way history tends to work. So I just thought this was kind of a very cool thing. Now here we back are with there's the cows. And we're just about to go up that little tower just to get another view. And here you are at the top of the tower. And this is, and in fact, if you just look behind here, the mines that we were in are right in under this hill. And the exit from the mine is right up around there. Okay, and you can see something there that we walked a little bit further than that. I think the exit to the mine is right around there. And Dave has since left us. Dave went off to his spa visit. So you and I spent an extra hour or so up at the Heights of Abraham, just having a cup of coffee and chatting about stuff. And then we're now on the way back down. And what would be complete without an ice cream cone? So we had to take a picture of you in front of a big ice cream cone, and then we actually stopped for some wonderful ice cream cone, or an ice cream, but it wasn't actually at Hall's, but they had the best ice cream, and I thought you'd need a picture of you in front of an ice cream cone. And there's a bunch of other stuff to do in Matlock. We didn't do this, but Matlock Bath has an aquarium and all sorts of jazz. It's really being turned into a tourist center. So now that was the end of our Friday. And we went back to our place and we did whatever we did. I can't remember, one of those nights we went out for a pub dinner, and I think it was on the Friday night that we went for a pub dinner. And then the next day we've driven up, and we're still in the same general neighborhood, the same general area, but we've gone up to Chatsworth Palace, or Chatsworth Gardens, which everybody that's ever talked to us told us they were a must-see. And so you and I went, and there was two different things. There was the home itself, a big, a state, a big palace essentially, and there was the gardens. And we decided, you and I spent a couple of hours in the gardens. Dave wasn't interested in either one, so he went and read a book by the shores of a little river. But you and I then went and spent a bunch of time in the garden, and this is basically the tour. So there's Chatsworth House, and we come in here, and then we go all around here and do this and do this, and went there and there and there. We did all kinds of stuff. We didn't get up there, but we did all this sort of area, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And there's lots of pictures to prove that. And we found out about Capability Brown, and he's basically a landscape architect, and he had done a lot of the actual landscaping at Chatsworth and other places. So I just took some photos of this stuff. I thought that was quite interesting. This is you in front of, and at the same time that we're there, they're having a contemporary art show. So in various different places around the grounds, there were these contemporary art. So here's this dog, dog on a scaffolding, kind of interesting. And there's a number of other things that you'll see in these photos. So that's a pretty good photo of you, by the way. So again, another beautiful sunny day. The palace is right over here, just behind us, and we'll see a few more pictures of that. Now, this is something that was called the Drunken Trees. This is called, can't quite remember, we'd have to go back to the map. That's Ring Pond, and those things are the Drunken Trees. And what was interesting about them, the story that they told us, and we managed to find one of the guided tours that was happening in the gardens, and we jumped in with them. And the story that the tour guide told us was that was the reason why they groomed them this way. They said they could have staked them and made them grow, perfectly straight. But what he wanted to do was he wanted to kind of utilize the fact that they were, blowing in the wind and stuff. And so he groomed them like that. But he also called them the Drunken Trees because he said it was kind of an analogy for, this is a big palace with the super rich. And he said this would evoke the memories of all kinds of party goers that would be, typically drunk and tipsy, out in the cavorting around the pond and invariably falling into the pond and stuff. And, just kind of the idea of English summer parties with the stupidly rich. Anyway, so that was kind of the little story about the drunken trees. I was quite taken with those. I thought they were very cool. And right behind it, you can see Paxton's rock garden, and we spent a bit of time traipsing around that. So that it's beautiful, and this is all part of it here. Just an amazing bunch of things. There are some great stories here about the great conservatory, and they had built this conservatory. But they took it down. It broke, and they ended up taking it down. It became dilapidated and neglected. The family reluctantly took the decision to destroy it, and in 1920, the conservatory was blown up, and in its place, there was a few other things, but eventually there was a maze, and we walked through the maze that you'll see. So this is just about Joseph and Sarah Paxton. This is you in front of Chatsworth's house. So this is the actual Chatsworth's house, and that's a pretty famous picture in terms of, obviously not my picture, but there's many pictures of the thing with the fountain in front of it. And then here's another one of our contemporary art pictures. And this is the maze I was telling you about. So this was the conservatory originally, and then it got taken down, and numerous other things got built in its place, and then eventually it got replaced with this maze. And as the final thing that we did at Chatsworth's Garden is you and I went through the maze. Now this is called the, I can't remember, but it's on that map at the beginning. The cascade, sort of a cascading waterfall, and people are playing in it and stuff. And but it's just a beautiful, and again, by the time we got here, it would have been nice to spend a lot of time just kind of sitting around, maybe, you know, sitting on the grass, having a drink or something. But of course, we were madly racing through to try to see as much as we could. Anyway, gorgeous place, amazing place. Got more pictures in front of it, and that's the Chatsworth Palace, just to give you a sense of sort of where we are. So we're up at the top of a hill, and you can see how many different how many steps down in that cascading pool. And then, of course, because you had a lot of tunnels in the UK, we did some more tunnels. So there's a little tunnel here that we went through, and this is you coming out of the tunnel, or maybe you're just heading on into the tunnel, and the tunnel comes out in the rock garden back here, which was very cool. Now this is something, this is called the antithesis of sarcography, however you pronounce that. And what this is, so this is a great explanation of it. What this is basically a big block of granite, I think. Is that what it says? It's a big block of granite, a vast block of granite. And inside of it is a bunch of stuff that's growing, which is really cool, but I didn't get a picture of just the granite block itself, because but anyway, that might be worth looking up on the internet, because it was pretty cool. And then now we're in the Maze Garden, so we're toward the end of our trip of our Chatsworth Palace, or Chatsworth Gardens, and this is just, these are a couple of pictures of you in the gardens, or sorry, there's a picture of you in the garden just as we're entering in the maze, and you can just see the maze back there. These are more drunken trees at the ring pond. And then we now have collected Dave, and we've had a treat, and then we decided that we really should just, we were thinking about going somewhere else, but we decided we'd stop for a big bowl of soup, and these were huge bowls of soup, and they were really good. And so you and I each had a soup, and or did we? I don't. Whatever. We had a soup and sandwich and split a beer, and it was a really nice. And again, we're sitting in the sun, and it's just boiling. It's an amazing hot day, and this is like day number 6 in a row or 5 in a row of just sunny days. And I think at this point we're just about to head out. That's the Chatsworth Palace that you can see down there, and that was the entrance to the gardens, and the gardens are all back here. And I took this picture just because I wasn't quite sure who these people were, but these are the people that welcomed us to the gardens. And now we're back at Crick. This is our place. There's our cottage. There's our back door. So this was the back door off of the little TV room. And the front door the main door is right back here. And you can see that is Wayside Cottage. And that was the name of our place. Anyway, lovely little place, lovely little place. Okay, now now we're on Sunday, and Sunday we wake up and it's a bit gloomy. It hasn't started raining yet, but it's a bit gloomy. And I sort of thought it'd be really fun if we took a train. So I spent an hour or so trying to figure out where we should be going, and I found that if we got the train in Matlock Bath, so that's where the Heights of Abraham were, and you and I and Dave were fairly familiar with Matlock Bath by that time, that if we parked in the station there, we could get on a train and go straight to Nottingham without any transfers. And so I thought, okay, that's pretty good. And it was a pretty decent price too. I think it was £10 each to do this. So we got on this train, and it was just a 2 or 3 car commuter train. And we're just on the way to Nottingham now. And this is us in Nottingham. And as soon as we get to Nottingham, it starts to rain. And we're not there for more than 5 minutes, and it starts to rain a bit. So this is the oldest inn in England, Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem, 1189 AD, and it's carved. A lot of it is actually carved into the sandstone of the big hill, which is where the castle. And you can just see the wall of the castle. And what happened? So we got off the train and we walked here. There's about 5 or 10 minutes to walk to here, and then we were walking up to the castle. And this is the Castle Rock, and I took this picture just to show something about the Castle Rock. And then we came up with, this is Robin Hood. So here's the statue of Robin Hood, and this is just outside the castle walls. And there's the three of us. And then we discovered that, in fact, the castle is closed for the season, and in fact has been closed for a couple of seasons, kind of like Big Ben, and that they're refurbishing the whole thing, and they're going to really transform the whole thing, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. But for us, it is just closed. So there was nothing that we could do. So we skirted back to the to the pub, the old the oldest pub in England, and we sat there and we had a drink and a bite to eat, I think, while we tried to figure out what exactly we were going to do next. And what we discovered was that, in fact, there's this thing called the City of Caves tour, and the story is that this is in the pub, by the way. So this is one of the pub rooms that has been carved out of the sandstone. And this is what we came across, is we came across the City of Caves, and it basically, there is something like this, there's 800 caves that are underneath Nottingham, because the whole area is built on this very soft sandstone that is easy to dig into and tunnel into. And so there was essentially a city of caves that were underneath it. So we went on this tour, and it was fascinating. I'd never heard of it before, but it was absolutely amazing. So more than 800 caves are known to exist beneath the streets of Nottingham, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where we donned hard hats and we headed into the caves. And these are the caves that have all been carved out by hand. Really fascinating little tour. And this is the tannery. So there was a functioning tannery, and they told us all about how the tannery was, how people would tan goods in the tannery and how long it took and stuff. Good tour guide. She had a lot of good information. Air raid shelters. There was, during the Second World War, a lot of these caves were turned into air raid shelters, and this was kind of an example one with you and Dave are in the air raid shelter. And then there's here's all the different caves that they know of that are under this Drury Hill area, and the big orange thing is this shopping mall that they excavated for. And Drury Hill was apparently a really disgusting part of Nottingham. It was kind of the poorest of the poor of the poor. So basically a bunch of pictures of this stuff, very cool. And then we managed to get back, we managed to find our way back to the train station, and we're getting back on the train, and we're now leaving Nottingham. And of course, now that we're leaving, the weather has improved, although it was kind of rainy most of the day. So it was probably a really good day to spend in the caves and the pub. And then we got back to Matlock Bath. And then I think when we got back to Matlock Bath, we might have gone for a little bit of a walk along the water. But basically that was pretty much the end of the day. So that's the end of Sunday. And on Monday, so now we're on Monday the 23rd, and we're basically driving up to York. So let me show you where we're going on that. So we're down in this area. This was the Peak District, the Peak area. And remember, I had said we sort of got in about this far into Buxton. There's Matlock, so it's not far from Matlock Bath. What we did is we jumped back in our car on Monday the 23rd, and we drove down here, and we drove back to the M1. This is the M1, and we drove up the M1 all the way up to here. Or actually, is the M18? Maybe it's M18, up to here, and then we zipped over to here and up to here and up to here, and we went to the scenic medieval town of York. So that whole thing was about a 2-hour, not quite a 2-hour drive, maybe an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. And so this is you and Dave at the gates of York. So we've driven up to York. We parked in the parking in the parking lot at the train station, and I promptly lost the parking ticket, so we ended up having to go and find another parking ticket, but that's a different story. So this is us, and all of this town, and you can see a few cars in there, but most of the town is a pedestrian town. The streets are fairly limited in terms of where you can drive cars. And what's wonderful is there is a functioning wall around most of the city, and most of that wall is walkable, although it's not contiguous. And one of the things you have, Mom, is you have a walking tour map of York somewhere in your souvenir pack. So these are just some plaques that I took pictures of as various different things. And these are the different, so Micklegate Bar is the entrance that we actually went into. And the bar, I think the reason why they call it a bar is it's actually a gateway. It's a fortified entrance into the walled city. So we went and we saw a number of these. So Micklegate Bar was where we started, and then we went for a little bit of a walk. And then here we're coming up to bar. There'll be a picture of it in a second. I think it's called the bar. What is it? Hang on a second. Sorry, Bale Hill. There it is, Bale Hill. So this is the three of us that are just coming down. We're just about to walk down to Bale Hill, and we've been walking on the wall for not more than probably 10 minutes. York is a very small city, very walkable, but pretty cool. So again, more information about these different hills and gates, and then this is the river that runs through York. And so we've taken some pictures, and we saw a few little boats on there. And then this is, what was this called? There's a picture of this. This is called Clifford's Tower. So this is moat-fed, blah, blah, blah. Tower is taken in the confines of the prison. Okay. So it's basically on a big hill, and it's got some good views of York. We did not, by the way, we did not go up into that. We talked about it, but then we decided that because there were some stairs up to there, and then it was, I don't know, 15 pounds or something to get to the top, and we kind of decided we wanted to go for lunch instead. So that's what we did. I saw this along the way, and I took a picture of this, and it's just kind of interesting. This is all the different floods that have happened in York, and it's just kind of interesting to check out the dates and see how many of them have happened in this century. This is you and Dave, and we're sitting. The three of us are having a very nice meal, and we're sitting there right on the right next to the river. And this is the first day. So this is Monday now, the 23rd. This is the first day. Sunday was pretty much all rainy, and that was the day we were in Nottingham. Today, Monday, it started to be quite sunny. It looked really good, but then around lunch, it looked like it was going to cloud over, and then the sun broke out, and most of the afternoon was quite sunny. So we had a pretty good day also from a weather-wise on this day. And so now we're on, these are sort of just some streets and just some interesting things that we saw on the way into York. And then we end up at a place called the Shambles. And this is the Shambles, the street. And it's a very famous street simply because it's got, it's still got very much of its kind of, 13th or 14th century feel to it, very narrow streets and a lot of medieval houses still that look the part. So quite neat. And I took this picture really for my daughter. The shop that must not be named is a statement about Harry Potter, and I just kind of thought that was pretty cute. And then this is on the way. What you can see at the back here is you can see the York Minster, which is the big abbey, and it's phenomenal. There's a bunch of pictures coming up, but you can see how it sort of towers over the rest of the street. And there it is. There was a part of it that was being renovated, but it was quite magnificent. Really, really quite impressive. But by this time we were pretty tired, and we could have gone to the top, but I think all of us were a bit exhausted, so we still had some walking around to do. So we didn't, we did not go to up the tower, but you can see that it's a pretty impressive building. And York would have been, we spent, 3 or 4 hours there. We could have easily spent the whole day there, but, on the Monday that we were there, we had, a 2-hour drive each way. That was pretty much our whole day for the 3 or 4 hours we did spend in York. And here we are, just another sort of city wall, gated wall, and you can see actually there's the walking part up here. So you can walk on this, you can walk across the wall, and I think there's some pictures of us walking on the walls. Bootham Bar. We're on the wall now, and that's a picture of York Minster, towering over these, these homes, and you can see there's actually we're actually on the wall, and then we're looking into people's gardens. And this is the wall. It was about this narrow all the way through. And as I say, it wasn't contiguous, but you could, if you wanted to, you could walk around. You could walk about 3/4 of the way around the city, and then from this, so you and Dave on the wall. And there's another piece of the wall, and actually, this is looking into the gardens of what I think is the abbey, or the pastor that takes care of the abbey itself, or of the York Minster, because it seemed to be kind of a connected property. And that's this is being turned into some sort of a country club, and it's a pretty amazing looking place. And then of course with the York Abbey in the back, it's York Minster in the back, it's pretty impressive. So this was a little tea house that we could have gone to if we had wanted to. And then this is a floor plan for York Minster, so pretty impressive. Constantine the Great, and I think there's probably a picture of, there's a Roman column that had some history to it. Lendal Tower. So I was just taking pictures of all kinds of things. And then this is on our way out. We're now walking back out of York, back to the train station, and this is just one of the fortifications that we passed that's right on the water. And so in the old days, there would have been, this would have been armed, and there would have been some sentries looking out, and this was kind of one of the ways into the city. And you have to make sure that, people entering your city were not bad people. So now we've gone back to our place, and Tuesday we woke up, and basically we decided that we would stick around Crick because a couple of things. One is the weather was not looking very good, and in fact, as it turned out, it rained almost the whole day. And we sort of thought, well, probably a good day to catch up on our laundry, and also just to kind of wander around Crick itself. And so you and I and Dave, went out at one point in the mid-morning. We left our place because there was a break in the weather, and we weren't out more than 5 minutes, and it started to rain, and we didn't get more than about a block or two away from our cottage, and we said, okay, this is stupid. Let's just go back. So Dave and I took you back, and then I think we sort of thought, okay, well, we'll still push it a bit and see if we can walk a bit. And we went out for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we just got drenched. But we did manage to come across this, and there's very, very little cool story here about a railway, but it was pissing with rain at this point, and so we just kind of thought, okay, we just gotta get back to the cottage and do our laundry. And then we spent about 4 hours doing laundry because we couldn't figure out how the laundry machine worked. And you might recall that we ended up having to stoke up a fire because it was also getting a bit chilly in the place, but also we really needed to get the heat from the fire to dry our clothes. So you may remember that was how we spent most of our Tuesday. And then I think we had, and on Tuesday night we had dinner reservations at our local pub at the Black Swan, and that was kind of our last meal in Crick, and so we wanted to go out and so we had a dinner reservation set aside to make sure that we could actually go there, because that's one of the other things we tried to do. Is we thought we'd go there on Sunday night when we came back from because we had seen their menu for a Sunday a Sunday roast and Yorkshire pudding and stuff. And it sounded terrific. So we were sort of talking about, oh, it'll be great to drop in on Sunday, you know, after we get back from wherever we go. And when we got there, they said, oh no, that's Sunday lunch, and it's served like only until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we managed to somehow screw up going to the pub dinner several nights. It was actually quite funny. Anyway, so this is something about the Crick Railway. We then, the next morning, we got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I got up about 3. I got you and Dave up around 4. We left around 4:30, or maybe I got you up at 3:30 and we left at 4 because we had to do the drive back to Heathrow. And as it turned out, it was raining. It was pitch black, of course, on the motorway coming back, and it was raining to beat the band. And of course, you know, it was a bit of white knuckle driving on the way back. But we got back to Heathrow in good time. Got the car put away, and then the 3 of us checked in together, and I went and waited to make sure you and Dave got off safe and sound. And so this is you guys waiting in line as your plane is about to board. And this is actually a picture of your plane, and you and Dave are safely inside the plane, and you're just getting towed away from the gate so that you can motor on and get out of Dodge and get back to Calgary. And so I watched you guys take off, and that was the end of our trip together. So, Mom, that's been a little bit more than an hour and a quarter, I guess. Little blast through the movie reel. So what I'd like you to do is, you know, you can listen to this as many times as you want. You can stop and start it and make notes, but, you know, look at some of the pictures and tell me which of the pictures you like, and then we'll build some captions for them, and we'll also put them into a book. But now I just need you to know I've never done that before, so I'm not familiar with the software. So I'll get Colleen to let me know which are the good software programs to use. Anyway, so I hope I hope you get a chance to see this. I hope this makes sense to you, and that you can follow along with what I've been saying. And of course, as you get a chance to watch it, then you can you can always call me up and ask questions about it. So I'm going to stop the sharing, and I'm going to say good night. So good night, Mama. And it's 10 o'clock my time, so it's probably time for me to go to bed. So I look forward to talking to you about this and what we're going to do with all these pictures. See you, Mom. Bye. There's my hand. Bye.